Welcome to Emerald Isle Vacation Home Specialist. I am your host, Dennis Richkovsky, and this episode is all about introducing you to Emerald Isle, the place I call home and the place where I practice real estate. Let me begin by telling you what Emerald Isle is not. Emerald Isle is not an island, nor does Emerald Isle have anything to do with the country of Ireland. What Emerald Isle is a small coastal community that occupies the western end of a barrier island called Bogue Banks, just off the North Carolina mainland. This barrier island, Bogue Banks, marks the southern end of the famous Outer Banks, that string of barrier islands that extend northward to the border with Virginia. Bogue Banks is the only developed barrier island that is oriented east-west, and Emerald Isle is one of a few coastal communities that shares the same orientation. All of the other Outer Banks and their coastal communities are oriented north-south. What's the big deal about orientation? Orientation is so significant for so many reasons that it will be the subject of its own future video. For today, I want to call attention to two reasons. Number one, in winter, this east-west orientation protects Bogue Banks and Emerald Isle from the devastating effect of nor'easters. These massive storms bring pounding rain and gale-force winds out of the northeast. They can linger for days, producing beach erosion and flooding up and down the east coast, especially on the northern Outer Banks. These nor'easters are typically more powerful and more dangerous than hurricanes. Second, in summer, this east-west orientation embraces the prevailing winds coming up from the south, and these southern winds continuously bring sand onto the beaches of Emerald Isle, a natural beach renourishment, if you will. No wonder Emerald Isle boasts some of the widest beaches and highest dunes in North Carolina. Emerald Isle is home to about 3,600 permanent residents and welcomes some 40,000 tourists who make Emerald Isle their vacation destination every week during the season, which runs from roughly Memorial Day to Labor Day. Most of these vacationers come to Emerald Isle for its extremely clear waters and miles of inviting white beaches. However, beaches are not the only outdoor attraction. Emerald Isle is an angler's paradise. Out in the Gulf Stream, located 60 miles from Emerald Isle, you'll encounter big game fish. If you seek a more sedate fishing experience, cast your rig into the surf anywhere along the 12 miles of coastline in Emerald Isle. Want something in between? Fish off the Bogue Inlet Pier, or take your kayak or flat-bottom boat into the many estuaries in Bogue Sound. The kind of fishing I like best? Well, that's visiting my fishmonger, Captain Willis, and purchasing the catch of the day. Landlubbers in Emerald Isle have access to 12 miles of jogging and cycling paths, several parks, including the Croatan National Forest, and several golf courses, including my favorite, the Crystal Coast Country Club. A word of caution. Walking around here is like running for mayor. You gotta wave at everybody. You would think all these amenities and their upkeep would come at a steep price. Not in Emerald Isle. Emerald Isle has the second lowest tax rate among the 29 coastal communities in North Carolina. To keep you outdoors, Emerald Isle makes good on its promise of a temperate climate all year long. Winter temperatures average in the high 50s. And summer temperatures are in the mid-80s. Spring and fall are my favorite times, what with less crowded beaches and gorgeous sunrises and sunsets. Living in Emerald Isle like I do, you'll get your daily dose of southern hospitality and so much more. Emerald Isle is family-oriented and pet-friendly, and it embraces both with open arms. All these amenities I've described are summed up in the town's motto, Nice Matters. Bottom line, you won't run out of things to do in Emerald Isle. A word of caution. The more of Emerald Isle you experience, the harder you fall in love with this place. Ask me how, I know. You will also fall hard in love with the real estate in Emerald Isle. Real estate that is prized for its affordability, its location, and overall access to everything beautiful on the Crystal Coast. You don't have to invest $1 million or more for a beach home here. The median price for homes listed in Emerald Isle is under $400,000. To be sure, that is higher than the overall median house price in the United States. But how many homes in America are minutes from the ocean? You will fall in love with real estate in Emerald Isle, real estate that is prized for its emphasis on community. Unlike many coastal towns that are wall-to-wall high-rise condominium complexes, Emerald Isle has mostly single-family residences. There are a few older condominium complexes, but with a newly passed height restriction on new construction of 40 feet, no more are likely to be built. Lastly, a number of manufactured homes dot the town, but these are on the decline as well. As this year comes to an end, a number of people have asked me to speak to the real estate market in Emerald Isle for 2020. Most market projections deal in numbers, and I can spit out numbers rapid fire. But for detailed information on population statistics, housing information, land area use, and tax data, better off requesting a copy of my guide to relocating to Emerald Isle by going to my website, www.eihomesforsale.com. That's www.eihomesforsale.com. That being said, let's see what kind of shape the real estate market in Emerald Isle is in. It has had a challenging 16 months since Hurricane Florence arrived in September of 2018. The storm left this town with thousands of homes damaged. Contractors and builders were overwhelmed by the number and extent of repairs. As a result, inventory declined overnight, and inventory has remained low ever since. At present, we have roughly 150 properties for sale in Emerald Isle. To put this in proper perspective, there was a time not too long ago when I bought my home, we had 61 oceanfront homes for sale in Emerald Isle. Good news. The town is recovering nicely. The foliage is back and greener than ever. The beaches are responding well to renourishment projects. The backlog of damaged homes is decreasing. It is very likely that the inventory will increase in 2020. That is a very good thing. A larger inventory generates more buyers, and more buyers generate more competition. Mortgage rates remain low and stable. Taken together, these trends suggest a more positive real estate market for both buyers and sellers in 2020. Some other impressions. For the past year, buyers have been very demanding because they are very frustrated with the low inventory. Hurricane notwithstanding, there is one other very good reason why inventory is low. Many homeowners here in Emerald Isle understand and appreciate all the amenities I described to you earlier, amenities that cannot be found anywhere else. As a result, some homes that would go on the market are simply being passed on to subsequent generations, children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren. Bottom line, I tell my buyers to be patient and consider themselves fortunate that any homes are for sale in Emerald Isle. Based on what I just said, you might think that this is always a seller's market, but you would be wrong. Buyers frustrated with inventory in Emerald Isle can and do look to other islands and other coastal communities for their second homes. So I tell my sellers to be reasonable. Recognize that despite all the amenities Emerald Isle has to offer, there are other beaches. Lastly, vacant land has not sold well this year because builders have been occupied with repair work. That should change too, as more and more properties are made whole. In my opinion, all of these factors will bring more eyeballs to Emerald Isle looking at property, and more eyeballs are good for everyone. Emerald Isle, North Carolina really does have something for everyone. It's a wonderful place to be, whether you're here part-time or full-time. It has a wide range of appeal to young couples, families, retirees, military, investors, and any beach lover who wants a sunny, sandy place to call home. Pets love it here too. I'm fairly certain that everyone could use a little more Emerald Isle in their lives. You'll find it to be one of the best investments you could ever make. Ask me how I know. Return next week to this same bat channel at the same bat time, 9 a.m. Thursday, for another episode of Emerald Isle Vacation Home Specialist.